everybody? My name is Colin3639. Welcome back to another video. Today, in this one, it's going to be another top 5 video. And in this one, it's going to be on the top 5 meta decks of the October 2021 ban list post Burst of Destiny. Yeah, a lot of events have happened since Burst of Destiny came out, which is actually surprising considering it only came out like 5 days ago. But there was a lot of events that did happen. There was one in Denver, Colorado, the Ghost Championship Series, which I was at, and the reason why I wasn't uploading as much this past week is because I was at Denver doing that tournament. But yes, the meta has changed a lot thanks to things like Burst of Destiny and Synchro Storm as well. We cannot forget about that set as well, because Synchro Storm is very important to Burst of Destiny's success as well. But in this video, we're going to be covering the meta cards first, then we're going to do some honorable mentions, of which we have a fucking lot of, by the way. And then we'll get into the top 5 as well. No breakdown because there was a shit ton of events, so I don't want to just specifically do one event when there was like a 20, like 5, 6 events that happened this past weekend. So yeah, without further ado though, let's get into the top or meta cards. Starting off our meta cards is Zeus, and it makes sense that it's starting off our meta cards because this card is just fucking powerful. If you can make XYZs or play a deck that already has XYZs in its extra deck, you're most likely playing Zeus because Zeus is just that motherfucking powerful as a card. It's a non-once per turn board wipe. It's not even like a once per chain. You can just do this in the same chain if you want to as well. An absolutely fucking powerful card without a doubt. Zeus is just very, very good. It can the fact that its summoning condition is just so easy to get. All you have to do is attack with an XYZ monster has to battle the turn it gets summoned out for it to get it summoned out, which is honestly the fucking easiest thing to do. And then it can get multiple materials and get the non-once per turn or once per chain board wipe. Absolutely just a fucking ridiculous card. Absolutely makes sense for it to start off as our meta card. Next thing up is Pot of Prosperity. Again, this makes sense out of all the pots to be in the meta cards. Now, Desires can also maybe be in the meta cards as well, because Desires do see a lot of play, but Pot of Prosperity is just very fucking good. So if you don't know what Pot of Prosperity does, you can banish 3 or 6 cards from your X deck face down. You get to choose the cards, by the way. And then you mill the cards off the top of your deck up to the number you banish. So if you mill 3, or if you banish 3, you mill 3. If you banish 6, then you mill 6. Yeah, and that's fucking powerful because Pot of Duality is one of the most powerful cards in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. But the only problem is that it prevents you from special summoning. The thing about Pot of Prosperity is it's basically double Pot of Duality. And it still lets you special summon the turn you activate the card. The only downside to it is any damage you inflict to your opponent is halved, and then you can't draw cards for the rest of the turn, which honestly is not that much of a problem. As long as you get the special summon for the rest of the turn, Pot of Prosperity is just an absolutely ridiculous card. Probably not going to be ring printed anytime soon because it did come out this year, which is very unfortunate to all the budget players. But yeah, Pot of Prosperity is a very good card. There's decks that actually use their extra deck that still play Prosperity because Prosperity is just that good of a fucking card. So yeah, Pot of Prosperity in the meta. Next thing up is Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, a new card from Burst of Destiny, and holy shit, this card is it's very fucking powerful. Now, I understand Dragoon is still in the format, so a lot of people might not be playing this because I would say Dragoon is the more powerful card, but Enforcer has the better engine out of both of them. Because at least if you draw something like the Fusion spell with the Enforcer, you can activate it during the end of your whole combo and still get Enforcer out, unlike something like with Red Eye's Fusion. But Enforcer itself is just a powerful card without of itself, because a lot of people play Fusion Destiny at 3 just so they can see it in hand and have an insurance just in case they get hand trapped during their turn. They can go, okay, here's an Enforcer, have a fun time outing this card. I can say without a doubt this card is fucking powerful because in Denver I was playing Phantom Knights and I was playing the Enforcer package, and holy shit, Enforcer, like, there was a couple games where Enforcer won me the game by itself. It's so fucking good of a card because it can pop cards on the field, non-targeting pop cards on the board, and then can activate its effect in graveyard to summon himself back out in the next standby phase. And then you have Celestia and Dasher in the grave. Celestia can banish itself and the Dasher to draw 2 cards when you have no cards in hand, which is absolutely just a ridiculous effect. A Pot of Greed is also oh, my bad. Very nice. Again, playing Fusion Destiny at 3 because you don't really care if you draw it, because you can just do it at the end of your combos and stuff like that. Yes, very, very powerful card. Don't be surprised when this card keeps seeing play. Even with Dragoon Legal, yes, this card will absolutely still be seeing play because it's just a powerful card, but an engine is very good as well. And then next thing up is, of course, Dragoon. I know I just went on a rampant of the Enforcer stuff, but again, Dragoon as a card is more powerful than what Enforcer can give you. The only problem is Enforcer has the better engine than Dragoon, because if you draw any of the bricks, the Red Eyes Fusion, or the Dark Magician, or the Red Eyes Black Dragon, yeah, it's very much a break, especially if you draw the Red Eyes Fusion, because all of a sudden you turns off your Verte combo and stuff like that. But it's still very much worth playing those bricks, because Dragoon itself is just that powerful of a card. A card that cannot be destroyed by card effects, cannot be targeted, has a quick effect, discard 1 card to negate an activation of a card, and then can pop 2 cards during your opponent's turn, non-targeting as well. Very, very good card. The only thing with this card is once you out Dragoon, it can't come back. With something like Enforcer, Enforcer is once you out it, you have to out it in grave as well. So yeah, Dragoon is a very powerful card. Absolutely deserves to be in the meta cards. I think the card itself is better than Enforcer, but the engine goes to Enforcer more than Dragoon does. But yeah, very, very powerful card. Don't be surprised. People are still going to be playing this card even with Enforcer out, because this card is still a very fucking strong card. Probably should be banned, to be honest with you, but that's my opinion. I think Verte should be banned, but Dragoon is also still very powerful. So yeah, that is that. And then the last thing in the meta cards is Droplet / Ruler, because they basically do the same thing. Dark Ruler No More is just basically a cheaper alternative to Forbidden Droplet. But yeah, Forbidden Droplet, if you don't know, these are basically a good go second cards, because both of them can negate monster effects on board. Dark Ruler No More can negate the effects of all face-up monsters on board, and your opponent cannot respond to it with monster effects. They can still respond to it with back row, but Dark Ruler No More still is just a plain up monster negate, and absolutely amazing. The only problem with it is you can't inflict damage the turn you activate the card. So that's just the problem with Dark Ruler No More, but that's still fine because you can probably set up a good end board and stuff like that. But the thing with Forbidden Droplet, and why it's a little bit more powerful than Dark Ruler No More, because Droplet can still negate the monsters on board, but you have to send cards from your hand or field to negate monsters on a board. Now, one, you get to choose the cards you want to negate. Something like Dark Ruler No More, you don't get to choose. All the monsters just end up being negated. While Droplet gets to choose the cards you want to negate. Also has to send for cost, which might be the downside to Droplet more than Dark Ruler No More. But Droplet not only negates the effects, it also has the attack of the monsters on board, and you can still inflict damage the turn you activate it. But again, these two cards basically do the same thing. It's just a good go second. Make sure you negate your opponent's end board and stuff like that. Very good cards. Not surprised to see these cards still seeing play. They will still see play until at least one of them, until they get banned or something, because these cards are very, very powerful. But that is it for the meta cards. No cross out or anything, because cross out's not really seeing that much play. Surprisingly not seeing that much play. But yeah, that is it for the meta cards. Now let's get into the honorable mentions. Starting off, our honorable mentions is Flounderies, a new deck from Burst of Destiny. Now, why is this in the honorable mentions? A lot of people might say this deck dies to a hand trap, so it shouldn't be in the honorable mentions. My thing is you have to fucking respect this deck, because I know a lot of people might be focusing on Sword Soul out of the decks that come out of Burst of Destiny, but Flounderies is still a deck you have to respect, because they can still set up very good end boards if you don't draw the hand trap, or you don't negate it properly, or hand trap it at the right time. Yes, because they can set up end pen, which is just basically a monster negate for extra deck monsters that are in attack position, which basically means it can negate link monsters effects, which is absolutely powerful. It can set up the bird statue as well, because bird statue is just that good of a fucking card, and a lot of people are just not playing wins as well. This deck does not special summon as well, so anything that prevents special summon just gets around because all they do is normal summon. So they usually end up with an M-Pin, the bird statue with maybe a couple set in the back row, and maybe a couple hand traps in hand as well. But again, the reason why it's in an honorable mention spot, because I do have to say this thing does die to a fucking hand trap, and that is the problem with the deck. But this deck is still something you do have to worry about, because this deck is still very, very good. That's why it's in the honorable mentions, not in the top 5 or anything, but the honorable mentions, because this is a deck that you do have to respect. Next thing up is Outleach. Outleach, oh my god, has gotten him a little bit more better. So a lot of people are now playing the Trap Outleach variant of the deck that has the Dogmatica package in there and just throwing a shit ton of just traps in there to prevent your opponent from playing the game. Now, the reason why it's gotten a little better is because in Burst to Destiny, they got the Sky Prism. I forget its full name. It's like Lord Heavenly Sky Prism or something like that. That card is fucking dumb. It's a very powerful card. It prevents, if you can reveal it, and all your back row cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is honestly just a fucking dumb card. And then when you activate a set, trap, or spell card, you can special summon it and then set another spell or trap from your deck. It's such a ridiculous fucking card, but that's why Outleach has gotten a little better. All the trap heavy decks have gotten a little better thanks to that card being released in Burst of Destiny. But Outleach was already a good deck, and then getting Sky Prism was just makes it a ton better. Yeah, but it's still in the honorable mention, still not in the top 5. But this is still a deck that you have to worry about, because Outleach is just such a good engine, especially with all the traps that it plays as well. So that is it for Outleach. Next thing up is Ignister. Now, the thing with this deck, it's gotten a little better since Lightning Overdrive, because they have got their Link 1 now that can search the field spell and stuff like that. The only problem with the deck is now a lot of people know how to stop this deck. They know when the hand trap and stuff like that. Probably just going to hand trap on the Link 3, like something like a Valor or Imperm. And that's where this deck really dies to, is it really just dies to a hand trap, same like the Flunderies. So you wouldn't be surprised if they play like Crossout in the main, because they do just die to a hand trap. But the thing with this deck is their end board just sets up a either 4 or 6k unaffected by monster effect or unaffected by card effect card, which is absolutely just fucking a ridiculous card to deal with, because 4,000 or 6,000, because they can set up either one, just depends on what their hand is looking like. It's just absolutely powerful, and you do have to respect that. Now, the only problem is that that's their only win con, is setting up on an unaffected monster, which, again, there's a lot of, like, Access Code Talker can get beating over it and stuff like that. But, again, this is still a deck you do have to respect, because that end board is just a crazy-ass end board. So, yeah, that is it for Ignister. Next thing up is Salamangreat. Yes, this deck is still seeing play, again, since the unbanning of, what's the fucker's name? Mirage Stallion, that's the name. This deck has been seeing consistent play in the Rogue deck. Again, this deck is still just a very good control deck, ends on the Stunlight Wolf, the set cards and stuff like that. Still have to worry about it. You can do the OTK during the turn 3 or 4 as well. Just a very, very good deck. It's not the best deck in the world, but you still have to, you can't just write it off or anything like that, because this is a deck that can very much punish you if you write it off, because you have to know when to hand trap and stuff like that, because their sets are powerful. Roar and Rage are both being searchable and stuff like that because of something like Salamangreat Gazelle. Again, not in the top 5, but still a deck you very much have to respect, because it's just a very good deck in out of itself. It's not the best deck, but it's still a deck you have to worry about. Next thing up on the honorable mention list is Virtual World. Yes, this deck is still seen playing even after VFD has been banned, and that's honestly not a surprise, because this deck is still a very good engine. It can still set up on the Shen. It can still set up on Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon with something like the Ultimate Tzolk'in can pull it out as well. They can also end on the Invoked Caligula if they want to as well. Again, just depends on their hands and stuff like that. It's a very good deck, and you still have to respect it. You can play a lot of hand traps in its deck as well. The only problem with Virtual World, and this has not changed since VFD was still legal, is it can still fucking brick. Yes, it can still fucking brick, and that's the problem with the deck. It was the problem when they had VFD still legal, and it's still a problem now, because that's just that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you want to have the spells and traps set up so you can target and then spell summon your monsters, but sometimes you just don't draw it. So, sometimes it just dies to a hand trap, and sometimes it just bricks on itself where you just have to literally pass turn to your opponent. That's how bad bricking in Virtual World is. It's still a very good deck, because once you get a good hand, you can still set up on a very good end board, but it can still brick, and that's the reason why it's in the honorable mentions and not in the top 5 or something like that. And then last thing up on the honorable mention list is Phantom Knights. And oh my god, how much I want to put Phantom Knights in the top 5. I really do. And it's probably because I play Phantom Knights. I'm playing Phantom Knights in this format. But oh my god, I want to put this deck in the top 5. But it's going to have to stay in the honorable mentions for at least right now. Now, if you don't know what Phantom Knights do, they basically send shit to the graveyard and start getting shit graveyards immediately going. Basically, 2 level 3s basically get their combo going because they can just set up a Trubity. Trubity just being an absolutely dumb card, just sending for cost. They'll set up a Rusty Bardiche. Fogblade is searchable not only through Rusty Bardiche, but something like a Silent Boots. They can set up an Appaloosa if they want to. They can also set up a Dark Rebellion and then a rank up into Dark Requiem during your opponent's turn as well. That's always something you have to worry about with the deck, and play Fusion Destiny at 3. This is one of the few decks that can very much take advantage of Enforcer being at Enforcer being out, because they play not only Verte in the extra deck, but they can also play 3 Fusion Destiny as well, because they can't really play Dragoon because they really don't keep hand advantage, but Enforcer does not care about your hand whatsoever. So that's one of the reasons why the Phantom Knights are good by itself, but the Enforcer makes it just that much better. The only reason why this is not in the top 5 is because I feel like the decks in the top 5 are just a little bit better than what Phantom Knights can do right now. So it hurts me to say it's in the honorable mentions, but I wish it can be in the top 5 right now, but it's just unfortunately not. Now, it could hit the top 5 because they are eventually going to get Brave tokens in the future, which just gives it more support because it basically sets up it being unnibiruable, because they'll set up Brave token negation before they can get Nibirued, which is very, very nice. But yeah, so don't be surprised if this deck somehow shoots into the top 5, but right now it's in the honorable mention, which hurts me to say. But without further ado, though, let's get into the top 5. Coming in at number 5 is Invoked Shaddoll. Holy shit, this deck is still fucking live, by the way. Winda is still legal. Schism still legal. All the Invoke stuff is still legal, and that's the reason why this deck is still very, very good. So if you don't know what it does, is basically their first turn is set up a Mechaba and then set up a Schism set as well, and then set up a Winda during your opponent's turn, from preventing them from playing the game. Very, very, very good deck. Again, Winda is just basically their win con, but they're playing the Dogmatica stuff as well, so you have to worry about the punishment, and you still have to worry about Nadir Servant just being an absolutely just fucking ridiculous card. Yeah, not surprised to see that at number 5, because this deck is still very, very, very good. It's seen a couple tops as well. Don't be surprised if you verse this deck, even though there's a lot of decks that came out of Burst of Destiny and a couple decks that came out in this new format as well, something like Phantom Knights or something like that. This deck is still going to be seeing play, because Schism is still just a ridiculous card. Same thing with Winda. They still have the Invoked package as well. They still have the Dogmatica package. This deck is just still very, very, very good. So this comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is Dragon Link, also known as the deck that refuses to fucking die. Holy fucking shit. In the fucking July ban list, Striker Dragon gets limited, LP gets banned, and this deck is still fucking thriving. And they're actually going to keep thriving, because in Burst of Destiny, they got a new rocket monster that they can actually throw into the deck as well. Still sets up a Heraldic Seal with a Tidying. You can set up the Borreload Savage Dragon, and then they can still set up the Hot Red Dragon's Archifiend as well. That's still a very good end board. They can play a lot of hand traps. They can play a lot of go second cards as well. This deck just is very, very good. Even with so many fucking hits to this deck, it still just refuses to die, and it will stay in the fucking meta. And it comes in at number 4, because Dragon Link is just that much of a powerful fucking deck right now. Still having the Link ones like Striker Dragon and Guard Dragon LP and stuff or not LP, Pisty, is still just very powerful. Chaos Ruler is still legal as well. That just sends, basically mills 5 cards from your deck to the graveyard. You get to add 1 to your hand as well. Very, very, very powerful deck right now. Not surprised to see this in the top 5 whatsoever. It does come in at number 4 for me. Coming in at number 3 is Drytron. Now, for the number 3 to the number 1 spot, you can basically put them in any order for yourself. I have Drytron at 3, but you can very much argue Drytron being the top deck in the format right now. It's just really just your preference, and for me, I have Drytron at number 3. So number 3 to number 1, you can put in basically any order because all 3 of them are very, very closely tight. You can all argue these top 3 can be the best deck in the format. But now let's explain what Drytron does. Basically just sets up a fucking ridiculous end board with a shit ton of Omni Negates and stuff like that. So basically what they do is now they're playing the pre-preparation build where they activate pre-preparation of rights, add Herald of Perfection and its ritual spell to as well. Activate the ritual spell, tribute band 10, summon Perfection out onto the board, go chain 1, the ritual spell, chain 1, band 10, chain 2, ritual spell to add band 10 back to your hand, and all of a sudden you have a monster that can prevent your opponent from activating hand traps, and then you can basically do your combo from there. It's a very, very good deck. I mean, Beta Fafnir just being an absolutely ridiculous card for the entire archetype is good. Diviner of Heralds is a very good card as well, sending a Herald with Arclight or Elders Entities in a test just to get shit going for your for you as well. It's a very, very good deck that can set up Omni Negate monster with a shit ton of fairies in hand. Beatrice can send Ava as well just to keep getting more fairies in your hand. Absolutely just a fucking ridiculous deck. Not surprised this deck is still seeing play because this deck, the only problem with Drytron is that everyone is siding for this deck. A lot of side decks are preparing just for Drytron because Drytron is that powerful of a deck. You know, Droll and Lockbird kills the deck. Ally Justice Cycle Reader, that's the name of that one, is being played just because those 2 cards are very fucking powerful against Drytron. A lot of people are main decking Droll now because of how powerful things like Drytron or Dragon Link is, because Droll and Lockbird is just a very good card against those matchups. So yeah, not surprised to see it being played right now, but it is number 3 for me. Coming in at number 2 is Sword Soul, the new deck from Burst of Destiny, my bad. One of the most hyped decks that came out this year. And that's not a surprise. It's basically a 1-card synchro deck. That's basically what this is. You normal summon like swords or Moye, get a token, go into your synchro summon, and go full combo. From there, there's a lot of decks that are playing the 10E version of the build, which I very much like the 10E version of the build, which basically can set up a monster that prevents your opponent from activating light monsters. So something like Nibiru or Effect Veiler can't really hurt the deck as well. Very, very good deck. Very, very good. It can set up Baroness de Fleur as well. It can set up this boy right here, the Grand Sword Soul Master. Because this is basically just an infinite opponents during your opponent's turn, which is very, very nice. It banishes for a cost as well. Can also play into a Synchro 10, which when a card is banished, you can banish 1 card from your opponent's field and graveyard. This deck is just so fucking good right now. I'm on the hype train right now. Sword Souls is very, very good. Do not be surprised if this deck just keeps seeing more play without a doubt in the next couple months, because this deck is very, very good, especially with the 10E version of the build. But it is not my number 1. It is my number 2. I'm not tempted to put it at number 1 just yet because it just came out, so a lot of people are playing it right now. Let's see a couple months down the line to see if it's still seeing as much play and much hype as it is right now. But right now, it's only my number 2. And coming in at number 1 is Tribegage. Is this a fucking surprise or what? It's been the top deck for a little bit now, and it's gotten more support with the Lyralisk and Synchro Storm, which you don't think it would impact the deck, but honestly, it's given a really good boost to the deck. It's just given it more extenders. Now, they only play Kit and Karas at 1 because they really want to play the new Lyralisk support in it. It's a very, very good deck. It's basically what Bird Up was like back in March, and just now with the new Lairless support. And it's just a very, very good deck. Very good, because Tribe Engage by itself is good, but now you throw in the new Lairless stuff. Not only you can pull out the Unsung Blue Robin during your first turn, it basically can set up Zeus packages during your turn 3 or turn 2 as well. It's just a very, very good deck. I'm not surprised that this deck is still seeing play and still getting tops as it is. But that is it for the entire video. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content. I am going to be back over to regular uploading because I am back from Denver and doing I just forgot the fucking name of the tournament. Ghost Championships. Yeah, so without further, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.